He was at Malcolm X's side for the crucial moments of his life. He was at his side on the fateful day the civil rights leader was murdered. But Gene Roberts' name will be missing from the credits when the Malcolm X movie opens next week. Roberts led a secret double life, as Alexander Johnson found out when he went back to the scene of the crime with Malcolm's Mr. X.
I say it, I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked.
This is Spike Lee's long-awaited film about Malcolm X, the controversial civil rights leader who in 1965 was gunned down in one of the most sensational assassinations in the nation's history.
You're not an American. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
This was the scene in real-life Harlem on February 21st, 1965, the day Malcolm X was killed. This is Gene Roberts. He was there in this ballroom as a bodyguard close to Malcolm, but he led two lives.
Two ran right by me. The third guy, I got fairly close to him. He pointed his weapon at me. I threw a chair at him, knocked him down, he fired.
We have no desire to integrate with a race of people who are cruel enough to stick dogs on women, children, and babies.
Malcolm X was a hero to some and a threat to others, a symbol of both the civil rights movement and the violence that sometimes enveloped it.
He opened the minds of so many with truth, with logic, and with rage.
Publisher Bill Tatum was a close friend of Malcolm X.
And what he said was, black people will not take the kind of abuse we've suffered for so long anymore.
Malcolm X became a Muslim while in jail on a burglary charge in the late 40s. Later, Elijah Muhammad, head of the Nation of Islam, named him minister of the Harlem Mosque. He soon became the public voice of that radical movement.
We don't teach you to turn the other cheek. We don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the South, and we don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the North.
As Malcolm's influence grew, so did the government's fear that his group might be plotting a violent revolution. As a result, various agencies tried to infiltrate the organization. At least one of them was successful. On the day Malcolm was assassinated here at the Audubon Ballroom in New York City, one of the men he trusted to protect him was actually an undercover New York City cop.
I was to find out about any guns, illegal guns, threats of violence to various factions throughout the city.
Gene Roberts lived in the shadows for 27 years until now. In the crisscross world of clandestine operations, he was a New York City Police Department spy in the Malcolm X camp. He was on destiny's doorstep at a pivotal point in history. At any time, did you notice if Malcolm feared for his life?
He often said it, but I can't ever remember seeing him show it.
He often said what?
He often said there's people out to get him.
In the early morning hours of February 13, 1965, just a week before he would die, two firebombs shattered the windows of Malcolm's Queens, New York home. The attack occurred while Malcolm, his pregnant wife, and two young daughters were sleeping. It was obvious that someone wanted Malcolm dead, but who? Elijah Muhammad topped the list for two reasons. First, Malcolm had distanced himself from the Nation of Islam's radical views. And second, Malcolm also had exposed what he alleged were Elijah's secret sexual affairs.
Elijah Muhammad, the head of the movement, is the father of 8 children by 6 different teenage girls. 6 different teenage girls who were his private personal secretary. If I remained in the black Muslim movement and this came into the knowledge of his followers, that they would leave him and follow me. So a plan immediately was set in motion to take me down.
Just days after the firebombing, Malcolm told close advisors of his plans for the following Sunday.
At that Sunday's meeting, he was going to name names and make some inferences who he felt was part and parcel of what had been happening.
The attempt on his life, his family's life.
Right.
On Sunday, February 21st, some 250 supporters gathered to hear Malcolm speak. Gene Roberts was among them in his role as a trusted bodyguard. As Malcolm X began to speak, a diversion broke out in the crowd.
I started toward the scuffle. During the scuffle, I heard Malcolm say, "Cool it, brothers, cool it," because one of the people that was scuffling said, "Nigga, get your hands out my pocket." And then Malcolm said, "Cool it, brothers." And before he got the second "Cool it, brothers" out, the three people that were on the very first row rose and started firing.
One gunman packed a sawed-off shotgun. The others had handguns.
Two ran right by me. The third guy, I got fairly close to him. He pointed his weapon at me. I threw a chair at him, knocked him down. He fired.
The shot tore through Roberts' coat. On the stage, Malcolm lay dying.
I started giving him mouth-to-mouth, and within maybe 5 minutes, he had passed. There was a rush of air, and he just went.
Mrs. SHABAZZ, do you believe it was the black Muslims who assassinated your husband?
The investigation led to the convictions of 3 black Muslims, Norman 3X Butler, Thomas 15X Johnson, and Talmadge Hayer. Most investigators believe the assassination was an attempt to please Elijah Muhammad. Gene Roberts remained undercover and went on to infiltrate the Black Panther organization. Today, Roberts is retired from the NYPD. He's still haunted by what happened that day in 1965. He says he cried at Malcolm's funeral.
I shed the tears because I couldn't keep him alive. I don't know.
You can see Spike Lee's version of the Malcolm X story starting next Wednesday. Still ahead on A Current Affair, we put a country music legend on the spot.